Hey, what's going on, guys? I've gotten a few questions about my Zaw in my Equinox video, and it was a Plague Kripath. And with Plague Star coming back, I thought it was a good time to go over the Plague Kripath and talk about why it's so good. Because while it might not be as efficient as whips, the Plague Kripath is an extremely strong melee weapon, and if you're around during Plague Star, I'd suggest picking up a blueprint. I'm not going to go into the whole Plague Star event, but if you want to know where you can pick up these blueprints, you get them from Nyack and Cetus under Operational Supply, which is the rep for the Plague Star event, and the blueprint itself is going to cost you 2,000 operational supply rep in addition to 3,500 credits. And if you're running Plague Star a good amount, you should be able to pick this up, although you do need to be in the 3rd rep tier. But let's get to what this video is really about, the Plague Kripath. There are 3 main things that make the Plague Kripath extremely strong. The first is that it has innate viral damage, the second is that it can reach 100% status very easily, and the third reason is that it has a 3 Riven disposition, which means you're able to pick up some really good stats from a single Riven mod. But I'll also be showing gameplay from a build without a Riven. Now that we've gone over where to get the strike, let's talk about how to build your Zaw. When I go to build a Zaw, I always go to the Semlar Zaw calculator. It's got a pretty good interface, and it also lets you play around with what kind of links and grips you want to pair with your strike. So because we're building around a Plague Kripath here, we're going to select that first. And on this calculator specifically, you can choose to show the gilded stats or the non-gilded stats. Here I'm going to show the gilded stats because I'm planning on leveling this weapon up at least twice to get the maximum value out of it. And showing ungilded really isn't helpful when trying to build a Zaw. So here on the right you can see the Plague Kripath's base stats. It's got an alright attack speed with good crit chance, good crit multiplier, and status chance. You can also see that it does IPS in addition to viral. Now the viral is the important part of this, because you don't have to mod for viral to have it on your weapon now. And when we're playing with the Kripath, we're going to want as many statuses as we can get. The way I built my Kripath is based around having a high status chance, as well as a decent attack speed. But remember, this is just how I built mine, and Zaws are made so you can customize them however you want. And for mine in particular, my Riven kind of picks up some of the slack, from not having a high crit chance. So just be aware that there's multiple different ways to build a Zaw, and this isn't necessarily going to be the best for you. So because the Kripath is based around polearms or rapiers, we have 2 types of grips to choose from, and Semlar will automatically show the compatible ones for you. The one that I chose for mine was the Plague Boquin, which I'll be honest is partially because I wanted to keep with the Plague theme. It's not necessarily going to be the best, depending on what you're building it for. But as you can see in the stat window here, the Plague Boquin is going to give me plus 7 damage and modify my attack speed by 0.883. If I'm being honest, I think the Cicala is a little bit better here because it has a 1 attack speed modifier, which is a really great quality of life, even though you're losing 4 damage overall. But again, it'll depend on how you want to build it, because the Stung right below it is going to give you 28 damage, but it's going to lower your attack speed. Choosing the right grip here is more about how you want to play the weapon than one being necessarily better than the other, because you can always augment some of these shortcomings with either mods or arcanes later on. And if you don't mind losing some range, you could always build this for a rapier as well. And then the third choice you have here is what link you want to run. Now because I'm building my Kripath for 100% status chance, I've gone for this link here. Equana 2 Jai, if I'm pronouncing that right. But this link is going to give me an additional 14% status chance. Now this does lose me some crit chance, but it boosts my status by 14%, which makes it much easier to reach the 100% status I'm going for. And for me this link works well because I have a slide attack Riven, but it might be different for you, so just pay attention to what you're building for. It also boosts my attack speed, which is pretty important, because I want to get as much as I can for both quality of life and also to allow me to apply statuses faster. The faster I'm able to apply a status to a target, the faster I'll kill them, which I'll go into in a little bit. But these are the 3 components that I used on my Plague Kripath Zaw. If you don't know how to build a Zaw, you first need to build the components in your foundry, and then go to Hawk and Cetus, who then allows you to assemble the parts in the combination you want.
I will not tolerate this behavior, Pedlick. You look like a jerk. They shall work wonderfully together. Very good, very good.
And now that I've shown you how I built it, let's take a look at how I modded it. With my Zaw, I only need 3 dual status mods in addition to Drifting Contact to reach 100% status. Now I keep saying I want to reach 100% status, but I haven't gotten into why. The reason you want 100% status is for this mod, Condition Overload. Condition Overload is the most important mod on this build, and that's because it'll modify your total melee damage. Now what do I mean by that? So if you look at something like Pressure Point that increases your melee damage, and then you look at Condition Overload, you'll think they might do the same thing, but that's not the case. Condition Overload multiplies your damage after all mods are accounted for, and its damage bonus is multiplicative depending on how many statuses you have on a target. The easiest way to show how this works is to look at the wiki. So you can see here on this chart, with 1 status applied you deal 1.6 times the damage, but when that increases to 2, You will then start dealing 2.56 times the damage, and then with 3, 4.1, and so on and so forth. The more statuses you have on a target, the more damage you're going to deal, and by using Condition Overload on a weapon that has high status chance like the Plague Kripath, you're able to easily stack statuses on a target, increasing your damage to insane levels. And because the Plague Kripath has innate viral damage, you're able to mod for other statuses in addition to already having the viral status. So on the build I use the most, I have 6 individual statuses available to me. If all 6 were applied to one target at the same time, I would get 16 times the damage. That's 16 times my total damage. You're simply just not going to get a bigger melee buff than that. Although for most cases you're not going to be able to stack that many statuses, because the target's going to die before you get to that point. And while we're on the topic, I just want to mention that Blast has the chance to proc 2 additional statuses. And that's because both the stun and the knockdown count as statuses. It's a little hard to test this in game, but I'm just going to trust the wiki here. This means that while the enemies are affected by the blast knockdown, they're going to have an even higher damage multiplier. So just to recap, the more statuses you have on a target, the more damage you're going to deal with Condition Overload. This also includes Warframe abilities, like with Saren, or in my video Equinox, who's applying the slash status with his maim. And because the Plague Kripath can easily reach 100% status, it deals insane amounts of damage to enemies. But now that we've gone over why it's good, let's take a look at how I built mine. So for my primary build here, I do have a Riven that gives me slide attack crit. This is important because with my Zaw, I only have 14% crit chance at base. So by giving me the extra 90% crit when I slide, I'm able to then use mods like Blood Rush to give me red crits. You could also use a mod like Maiming Strike here, if you want to build for crit, but honestly I mostly build it this way just because I have a Riven. If you don't have a Riven, or even if you just want to build it for both status and crit, I would suggest using a different link for your Zaw. And the only other mod I haven't talked about here is Primed Reach, which just gives me more range on my weapon. The more range I have, the easier it is to hit enemies, in addition to me being able to kill enemies from a good distance away, which both provides me with protection, because the enemies can't hurt you if they're dead, in addition to making it easier to build combo meter. But you'll notice here I don't have an attack speed mod on this, and typically I'll run with an arcane like Arcane Fury, or a Warframe that allows me to increase my attack speed. Because again, the faster you attack, the faster you apply statuses, which then translates into more overall damage. And as you can see, it's very effective at taking out enemies. Even with just a basic status build like this, you're going to be able to take care of most enemies in the game very easily. And I would be using this build if I didn't have a Riven for my Kripath, especially because it allows me to use a little bit more attack speed with Berserker. But ultimately, how you build your Zaw is up to you. My hope is that this video has at least gone over why the Kripath is so powerful, and how you can build your weapon to take advantage of it. Although if you are able, I'd really suggest picking up a Riven, because I think Rivens push the Kripath over the edge in terms of being one of the best melee weapons in the game. But I hope you guys have the opportunity to pick this up during the Plague Star event, because they only come around once every like 6 months or so. And for a non-Maiming Strike melee weapon, it's one of, if not the best. Although I say that after just showing a Riven with slide attack crit chance on it. But hopefully this video has at least given you guys an idea of why it's good and how to build for it. Because honestly it's a ton of fun to use, and it's really fun to build for in my opinion. Because not many weapons can utilize so many different mechanics, making it an effective weapon for a variety of different playstyles. You basically just tear through the enemies like they're made of paper.
Think of Sicaran as paper people.
And the Kripath is definitely my go-to non-whip melee weapon. If you found the video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like. And if you get the chance, go out and grind some Plague Star because it's totally worth it. And you know we're going to get like 15 more ghoul events before we get to the next one. But I hope you're all having a good one, and I'll see you later.